Call the meeting to order. We'll do a roll call first.
Machine's not working.
She going? Yeah, there you go. So we've got a quorum on that. We good? All right, let's move on to announcements. Staff?
Yes, sir, just a couple of quick things. First, I'll note that items 20, 23, and 25 have been withdrawn from the agenda. Also, there is a revised staff report for item 4 in front of you, where the recommendation was changed since the mail-out, and there's also a revised consent agenda reflecting that same change to item 4. And that's all I've got.
Awesome. Joe, you good? All right. All right, let's go to consideration of the meeting minutes from the June 9th meeting. Are there any items to discuss here? Yes. We've got to go ahead. We'll go with the question first.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just noticed on, under item number 26, where it says Commissioner Lothers made a suggestion to shift the portables toward the northeast to alleviate concerns. That was actually Commissioner Lucian, and I had reviewed the video of that. So I would, if there's a motion on the floor, I won't make it. Otherwise, I would move for approval with that change.
We did have a motion about the same time as you asked to speak, so do we want to make a motion with the, with that change? So, sound,
Lothers mentioned.
Thank you, and I'll second it.
so we have a motion and a second, and we'll move to voting. Motion passes. Thank you. Consideration of the consent agenda is the next item. We do not read these anymore. And so with that, Commissioner McCord.
I need to recuse for the vote on this one.
Thank you, sir. Any items that need to be pulled from the agenda to discuss before we move forward? Hearing none, do I have a motion on the consent agenda? Thank you, sir. Do I have a second? Commissioner Rose seconded. We'll go ahead to vote, please. Thank you. Motion passes. All right. So items 18 and 19 were listed on the consent agenda. Item 20 it has been withdrawn. So we're now moving down to the public hearings section of them. Item 21 is the amendment to the Williamson County Zoning Ordinance, Article 20, regarding non-traditional wastewater systems. And we will first open this item with staff reading the item into the minutes, and then we will open up the public hearing. We do have one person wishing to speak on that, so staff, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The purpose of Article 20 of the zoning ordinance is to provide additional standards for non-traditional wastewater treatment and disposal systems over and above those established by the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation. The proposed amendments provide a number of procedural updates and clarifications regarding the approval process for such systems, as well as related to bonding and surety requirements. Included among the changes are: 1, changing all references from the Tennessee Regulatory Authority to the Tennessee Public Utility Commission. 2, updating references to TDEC's design criteria. 3, allowing the site plan for a non-traditional wastewater treatment and disposal system to appear on the same Planning Commission agenda as the residential use it will serve. 4, reducing the length of time that performance bond agreements for treatment and disposal systems and collection systems are required to remain in place until they may be converted to maintenance. And 5, clarifying ownership and usage of wastewater system components related to systems serving a governmental entity. In addition to the required public notice requirements being met, staff notified the utility providers themselves, as well as members of the engineering consulting community, of these changes. Staff has not received any feedback from these entities. Staff recommends approval of the proposed text amendment and that the attached resolution be forwarded to the County Commission for adoption.
Thank you, Mike. So I will officially open the public hearing at this time. And the rules are pretty simple with just having one person on there. You've got about 3 minutes to come to the podium, state your name, and address us. So, Mr. Powell.
Hi, I'm John Powell, a utility provider, Superior Wastewater Services, privately owned public utility. I've been in meetings with TPUC. We have a rate case that they instigated or asked us to participate in. Presently, we're the lowest sewer bill in the state of Tennessee that's published. So they wanted to see our why. At any rate, the bonding, when we became a public utility, TRA at the time in our CCN approval approved it with conditions that our sewer bill, when it goes to our customers, have a line item for the cost of Williamson County bonding. At that time, the bonding was millions of dollars. So since it's been replaced, but it's still there. And we had a couple discussions in the past month. They asked me to come here and give my thoughts and explain how they do bonding, and the regulations concerning the SOPs. TDEC issues the SOP, which is a state operating permit. The state operating permit allows an entity to design, build, operate, maintain, and repair a wastewater system. The only person that can design, build, operate, maintain, or repair the system is an SOP holder, which is the permit holder. Presently, we hold the permit, but if I was to move to Cancun and left, TPUC would take over that SOP, because whether one views it as an asset or a liability of the wastewater company, that's a joke, TPUC is responsible for that ownership of that SOP. So they would be the ones that would come in and operate it, send out the bills, repair it, and maintain it. We would like the bonds. Right now, TPUC requires a financial security bond of all wastewater utilities in the state to provide financial security of 50% of its annual revenue. That's the financial security can go to everything from administration to repair and maintenance and operation. If we wanted in this rate case to remove the line item of Williamson County bonding, a few things would need to be considered. One, on the bonds themselves, and the language of the bond that the developer and that we have to sign, It clearly states that it's for maintenance and operation and repair in the bond. What I would suggest is that the county find a way. I'm for bonds, by the way. I want you everybody to know that. The county find a way to make that language say that if it needs repaired, finished, or maintained, that the money be allocated to TPUC, who would be the entity that would have that repaired, rather than the county. The county can be the watchdog of it somehow, but if that was changed, then that would make chronological sense or logistical sense, because if the county called the bond, something happens, they're not the SOP holder and they don't want to be in the wastewater business. So that being said, if that changed, then that line item would disappear, because the TPUC would consider that as part of the financial security. The other thing is to just change the bond language to get that out. That's the first item I have, and anyone can call me to discuss it further if they'd like. The drip fields for Triune, the character areas of Triune, we've been asked to provide wastewater service to several property owners in the area. And there are no good drip fields inside those character areas. So we would like to see zoning approved to have those drip fields outside of the character areas. And we can transport wastewater, it's not the solids, several miles to good soil fields, not questionable ones. I would also like to suggest that we've found 2 good soil fields that are contiguous to 840. And I'd like to see some sort of buffer taken away from the edge of the drip field, because there are no residents going to 840. It doesn't make good sense to buffer that if there's never anything there. And 840 is buffered very heavily. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask?
Yes, please.
You all have the amendments in your packet. Just as much for Mr. Powell's edification as anyone else's, I was actually in conversations, a very long conference call about a month or so ago with the folks at TPUC about the very issue about maintenance. And part of the result of that discussion is how I've changed the language in the bond agreements to make it very clear that Williamson County does not intend to maintain these systems, that our bonds are for the purpose of the same way we do roads and landscaping, is to make sure it's put in, to make sure it survives for a minute, and then we let it go. In fact, in these amendments, we are reducing the amount of time that we are holding said bonds. That's one of the amendments. So a lot of this is cleanup stuff that I've been collecting over the last however many years since we amended it. And the other clarifications you saw in the staff report. But I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate John's comments, but I've actually been in conversation with TPUC about this issue to make it very clear, because Williamson County does not intend to get in the sewer business. That's why these exist out in the county.
So can I ask one question then?
Sure.
Are we talking about 2 different bonds? Is it a bond for Williamson County to see it get built and running and functioning?
Yes.
And then the long-term maintenance and operation bond is one,
TPUC holds a
That
whole
holds
separate functional
TPUC.
security, yes.
yeah.
That we have absolutely nothing to do with, so. Yeah, because John's right, if something goes south with the system, TPUC's going to step in and appoint a receiver to run it. That's what their regs say. So that's not our intent at all with these. Yeah.
question. What would be your counties, if they called the bonds, where would the money go?
This is not the appropriate location for this discussion, but I'm happy to talk with you about it because I'm not recommending that we change how the bonds are structured at all. What I am recommending is clarification and reduction in the amount of time that they're held.
Okay.
Kept the language the same
I-
of the bond,
As far as the calculation of it, just not the amount of time.
but it still has maintenance of operating.
No, that's been changed in the agreement since you signed yours in 2008, so you're welcome to update your,
I'll talk to you about it.
yeah, this is inappropriate.
Yeah. And let me officially close the public meeting or public discussion at this point. Thank you for that clarification. So the way I understand it is we were talking about two different bonds. County has no desire to step in and do a long-term maintenance and take over a facility.
Right.
That falls on TPUC in that agreement. See, Mr. Crohan has a question.
Number 4, I'd just like to know the reduction of the time. What was the purpose or the reasoning for the time being reduced, the time length of the bond?
Well, a part of kind of what Mr. Powell was talking about, that when we first drafted these, I think we held them for even longer because we didn't know how these systems were going to operate out in the county and how well they were going to function. Well, obviously, we've got a number of years under our belt, and they're functioning well, and they're serving the communities well, and there aren't the problems that everybody scared us with in the community. So we've reduced the amount of time that we hold the bonds once before with our last amendments, and this time we're reducing it again. It's basically just 15% issuance of the building permits so that we know after a house or two is connected that what they've built is going to function, and then we're out. It was 25% build out, so now it's 15. And just for that very reason, the systems have been functioning well. The utility providers have been operating things well. We haven't seen the problems that were the initial fears, however many years ago it was. And so in recognition of that, we don't feel like we need that security as long. And so like I said, we kind of treat it now like the roads. The roads get built under the performance bond. It goes under a maintenance bond. We watch it for a minute, and then we release them. So this will just release them sooner, the wastewater bonds, especially the collection bonds, because those are based on a section. So 15% of the building permits in that section, that won't be very long.
Okay, and the other question is the bonds that we hold on this, if for any reason we have to call that bond, as was said, we're not getting into that business. The bonds are enough where we hire an outside company to complete whatever needs to be completed.
What we would do is work with TPUC on that, and that's what I talked to them about. If we had to do that, we haven't had to do that, and presumably all the safeguards that we have in place and the safety factors that are built in the process, that won't happen. But I've talked to TPUC about that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further discussion on the item? Beth, Commissioner Lothers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a chance to talk to Christy a little bit about this, and I wanted just to share what I thought is just some excellent detailed work that she performed on this, and I appreciate it. And on page 3, I think it's important to note that I like the proposal and that the operational reports will be submitted by the owner-operator of the system to TDEC on an annual basis instead of to our planning department, which I think is most appropriate for the permitting process. And then also on page 6, I was asking her a little bit about the process in relationship to homeowners associations. That's one of the number one questions I get when people think about moving into neighborhoods with these systems. And she shared that tenancy codes used to say HOAs could own and operate utilities, but thankfully, that's not the case. It needs to be a utility company that is regulated by the state. So I also like the clarification that has come from Section A also. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Do I have a motion? We have a motion for approval. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Beth. Commissioner Lathers. Let's vote, please. Motion passes. Thank you. Item 22, concept plan review for Starnes Creek reapproval containing 70 lots on 155.1 acres located off Meeks Road in the 5th voting district. Again, we will have the staff read the report, and then I will open the public hearing and go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A concept plan for this development, which contains 72 lots, was approved in March of 2019, and a preliminary plat for the first phase of the development was approved in November of 2019. A land disturbance permit was subsequently issued, and development work on the subdivision had begun. However, due to unforeseen difficulties associated with waterline construction, the applicant was unable to obtain final plat approval before the concept plan expired. Therefore, the applicant is now requesting reapproval of the concept plan, which now includes 70 lots. The review of a concept plan is the first stage of the development process. Because the concept plan contains more than 49 lots, a public hearing is required. The subject property totals approximately 155.5 acres in size and is located on Meeks Road. The site contains a number of natural resources, including moderate and very steep slopes, streams, and a large area of woodlands. Approximately 53% of the site is covered in tree canopy. Both the required 350-foot open space strip between the building lots and Meeks Road's right-of-way and the required 150-foot open space strip around the perimeter of the property have been provided. The proposed development consists of 70 lots, which range in size from approximately 12,200 square feet to approximately 41,700 square feet. The overall density is 0.45 dwelling units per acre. 75% of the site will be preserved in open space. Access to the proposed development will be provided from a single entrance from Meeks Road, which is classified as a local roadway by the Major Thoroughfare Plan. An intersection analysis was performed by the applicant, indicating that turn lanes are not warranted based on the projected traffic volumes. However, the applicant has agreed to install a left turn lane at the entrance to the development. This turn lane is shown on the concept plan and will be incorporated into the conditions of approval for the development. Within the development, the applicant is requesting a right-of-way width of 40 feet in order to locate sidewalks outside of the right-of-way and a design speed of 25 miles per hour for internal roadways. Staff is in support of these requests. Water service will be provided by Milcroft and Utility District. Wastewater will be handled via a non-traditional wastewater treatment and disposal system for which a site plan was approved at the January 2019 meeting. It should be noted that once detailed construction and engineering plans are prepared in conjunction with submittal of a preliminary plat, changes to the layout, including the potential for a reduction of lots, may be necessary. A landscaping plan will also be required at final plat submittal. Staff recommends approval of this concept plan along with the request for a 40-foot right-of-way width and a design speed of 25 miles per hour within the subdivision with the following conditions. Preliminary plat must address the following. Number one, submissions of roads, drainage, and erosion control plans for review and approval by the county engineer. Such would include turn lane improvements on Meeks Road at the site entrance. Turn lane improvements on Meeks Road must be approved by the Williamson County Highway Department prior to preliminary plat submittal. Roadway improvements are currently underway. Number two, submission of the water plans for review and approval by Milcroft and Utility District. The water line is being installed. And number three, submission of applicable construction plans for the required wastewater disposal facilities to TDEC, the county's consultant, and staff. This is being completed. Final plat must address the following. Prior to submittal of the first section of the proposed subdivision, a zoning certificate must be obtained for the completed wastewater treatment and disposal system. Prior to issuance of the zoning certificate, the applicant shall submit the following. A letter from TDEC indicating that the non-traditional wastewater treatment and disposal system was installed and is functioning. B, as-built drawings showing the location of all system components and a sealed certification letter from the design engineer indicating that said system was constructed in accordance with the approved construction plans and specifications. C, a letter from the owner/utility provider indicating that it has accepted said system and is currently operating same. D, per the recommendation of the county's wastewater consultant, establishment of a performance bond in the amount of $120,700 for said system. And E, the posting of a performance bond in the amount of $8,200 for landscaping improvements. Number 2, prior to final plat submittal, turn lane improvements on Meeks Road must be completed to the satisfaction of the Williamson County Highway Superintendent. Number 3, prior to consideration of final plat approval, the applicant shall submit HOA documents for review and approval by the county attorney's office. The HOA documents must be submitted with the final plat, and the approved HOA documents must be recorded concurrently with the recording of the final plat. Number 4, establishment of a performance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control. Number 5, establishment of a performance bond for water improvements in favor of Milcroft and Utility District. Number 6, establishment of a performance bond for the wastewater collection system. Number 7, submission of landscaping plans and establishment of a performance bond for landscaping. Number 8, execution of a stormwater maintenance agreement and submission of an operation and maintenance plan for stormwater improvements. And number 9, submission of the approved final plat in DWG format on recordable media based on the Tennessee State Plan Coordinate System prior to signature and recording of the plat.
Thank you. So this item is under the public hearing section. Nobody signed up to speak, so I will open and close the public hearing on this item, and we will move to, we will move to discussion. Commissioner Rose?
I just wondered if the difficulty that there was in putting in the water lines, if that had any, if that caused any problems for the wastewater disposal system, if that made any difference with that.
Commissioner Rose, I'm going to let the applicant who is here answer that for us, please.
Okay.
If you will, just state your name.
Yes, sir. Excuse me, Michael Shamsey, design engineer for the project with Landmark Engineering Group, representing the developer. And the water line issue was a lot of easement problems, water line installed. Adjacent property owner tore out 1,200 feet of brand new water main. And so there's a lot of legal action going on, and it's finally completed.
Okay.
Had no effect on the wastewater system.
Thank you, sir. I had one question. I was going to, this was previously approved. Is this the same layout that was previously approved and coming back before us this time for the most part?
It is basically the same, yes, except for the exclusion of 2 lots, so it has 2 fewer lots than
Okay.
before.
Thank you. Any further, let's see, Commissioner Balder?
So we approved the concept plan in March of 2019 and the preliminary in November of 2019. So when did the water issues start where you had the unforeseen utility? When did that start? How long did it take? I understand you just said somebody dug everything out and now it's finished, and because it's been going on the project seems to have been going on for 2.5 years now, almost 3.
It's a very large project, a lot of earth moving and rock removal, and then the water main that when it was approved, we thought the easements were going to be in place, and that they had agreements, verbal agreements with some of the property owners, and then a couple of them did not want to give up easements, so then they spent the time in court condemning it. Milcroft did, and then once we got through all those hearings, installed the water main, and then that property owner tore out 1,200 feet, and then we couldn't get pipe, so that took, no supplier in Tennessee had pipe, so I did get pipe out of Illinois, got 2 semi-loads to replace that, but that took a couple months, and it just a lot of delays like that, and this issue on the water main and the tear out is still in court.
Okay, so I live on Arno Road, so I live right around the corner from this development, and so I drive that way a lot. And there's there was one lane for quite a while with the traffic lights, which I did appreciate the traffic lights, indicating that. So, yeah, it's been so torn up for so long, and I'm just thinking about the homeowners out there.
It was tore up, and we could not finish the roadway because we had an existing water main that was in that roadway section that we had to tear out. So we need the new water main line in order to make the connection at both ends, and then tear out the old water main and finish the roadway construction. I believe everything was paved today, so that all the Meeks roadway improvements are done. We're down to striping and finishing everything up.
Okay, all right, good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion? Do I have a motion? Thank you, sir. Keith, you mind verbalizing that? Thank you, sir. We have a motion and a second. Let's vote, please. Motion passes. Item number 23 was withdrawn, so moving on to the concept plans. Item number 24, Commissioner McCord, you need to recuse? Yeah, I do. Okay, thank you, sir. So item 24 is a concept plan review for the homes of Mulberry Meadows, containing 27 lots on 198.4 acres located off Teleferno Road in the 5th voting district. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is requesting concept plan approval of a 27-lot conservation subdivision in the Rural Development 5 zoning district. Lots range in size from 1.14 acres to 3.16 acres. The average lot size is 1.44 acres. The overall density is 0.13 dwelling units per acre. The review of a concept plan is the first stage in the development approval process. The subject property totals 198.4 acres and is located approximately 1 mile east of the intersection of Horton Highway and Talaferro Road. The property is relatively flat with clusters of woodlands. The property contains a stream and its tributaries that transect the property. The necessary waterway natural areas for the stream and its tributaries have been established. Approximately 74% of the site will be preserved in open space, and 72% of the existing tree canopy will be retained. All ordinance standards with regards to natural resource protections have been met. The required open space strip around the perimeter of the property has been provided. Water service will be provided by Nolensville College Grove Utility District, and wastewater will be handled via a non-traditional wastewater treatment and disposal system, for which a site plan was approved at the February 2022 meeting. Access to the proposed development will be provided by a single entrance onto Talaferro Road. The proposed development will generate less than 0.2 peak hour trips per acre, and therefore a traffic study was not required. Should be noted that once detailed construction and engineering plans are prepared in conjunction with the submittal of a preliminary plat, changes to the layout, including the potential for a reduction of lots and relocation of drainage infrastructure, may be necessary. A landscaping plan will also be required. Concept plan is in order, and staff recommends approval with the following conditions. The preliminary plat must address the following. Number 1, submission of road, drainage, and erosion control plans for review and approval by the county. 2, submission of water plans for review and approval by Nolensville College Grove Utility District. And number 3, submission of the applicable construction plans for the required wastewater disposal facilities to TDEC, the county's consultant, and staff. The final plat must address the following. Number 1, prior to final plat submittal for the first section of the proposed subdivision, zoning certificate must be obtained for the completed wastewater treatment and disposal system. Prior to the issuance of the zoning certificate, the applicant shall provide the following. A letter from TDEC indicating that the non-traditional wastewater treatment and disposal system was installed and is functioning. B, as-built drawings showing the location of all system components and a sealed certification letter from the design engineer indicating that said system was constructed in accordance with the approved construction plans and specifications. C, a letter from the owner/utility provider indicating that it has accepted said system and is currently operating the same. D, Per the recommendation of the county's wastewater consultant, establishment of a performance bond in the amount of $100,200 for said system. E, the posting of a performance bond in the amount of $55,500 for landscaping improvements. And F, execution of performance agreements for the above referenced sureties as they relate to the non-traditional wastewater treatment and disposal system. Number 2, prior to consideration of final plat approval, the applicant shall submit HOA documents for review and approval by the county attorney's office. The HOA documents must be submitted with the final plat, and the approved HOA documents must be recorded concurrently with the recording of the final plat. 3, establishment of performance bonds for roads, drainage, and erosion control. Number 4, dedication of right-of-way 25 feet off the center line of Talaferro Road. 5, establishment of a performance bond for water improvements in favor of Nolensville College Grove Utility District. 6, establishment of a performance bond for the wastewater collection system. 7, establishment of landscaping, submission of landscaping plans and establishment of a performance bond for landscaping. 8, execution of performance agreements for the above referenced sureties. Number 9, execution of stormwater maintenance agreement and submission of an operation and maintenance plan for stormwater improvements. And 10, submission of the approved final plat in DWG format on recordable media based on the Tennessee State Plan Coordinate System prior to signature and recording of the plat.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any discussion on item number 24? Commissioner Rose?
I just have a couple of questions is all. At the top of the second page where it talks about there doesn't need to be a traffic study. My question, how do we determine that? How's that figured out, that there's going to be less than 0.2 peak hours trips per acre? How do we know that?
Staff, y'all want to?
I just don't know. I don't know how that's determined.
So their consultant provides to us a traffic calculation, and Mike can chime in at any time. And on that, they do the traffic calculations based on Article 17 and how many trips the proposed project will generate, which comes out to be less than 0.2 peak hours.
Okay, thanks. Also, on the plan, it shows Royal Fox Road is a stub, comes out as a stub on the edge of the development there. So as you go in, whatever, I don't remember what the main street is called, but then there's before you hit the curve to go around to the other arm of the development, there's a little Royal Fox Road in there, and it comes out as it's called a stub road. And I just wondered if we had any ideas what plans were for that adjoining property there. Do we know anything?
So at this time, we have not seen anything has been presented to our office, and no one has come in to talk to us about that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Baldry?
So I have a question. It was actually in conjunction with Rhonda's question. The stub road for future connection. Also at the end of the subdivision, the cul-de-sac, it says temporary turnaround, right-of-way for easement for future development. So the traffic study is for this 27 acres, which looks like a great subdivision with big lots. It's really nice. And the traffic studies for this, so these extra roads, I mean, obviously they're looking for the stub road for future connection. So this road is a 2-lane. I know we're not talking about the future developments right now, but I just want to make a comment about it. I mean, there's traffic studies for this subdivision on a 2-lane road, 2-lane country road, and they're obviously wanting future development, so.
I think a fair assessment would be that we wanted the connections in case the future property's developed.
Okay.
Because it's a little trite, but you can't get a stub road. You can't get a stub road unless you make accommodations for it. So we generally ask for stubs to properties that we see some development potential, even though there might not be a developer standing at the table. And then those projects, of course, will stand on their own merit if and when they come in.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you.
Anything further? Do I have a motion? Thank you, sir. Have a second? Eddie Sanders, second. Thank you, sir. With that, we'll move to vote. Mr. McCord is abstaining. Thank you, sir. Motion passes. Item number 25 on the agenda has been withdrawn, so we'll move on to item 26 under preliminary plats. Preliminary plat review for Troubadour Phase 6 revised containing 18 lots on 16.69 acres located off Cox Road in the 5th voting district. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A final plat for this section of the development was approved at the April 2020 meeting, and all applicable bonds have been posted and the final plat recorded in June of 2020. The applicant is now requesting approval of a revised final plat, excuse me, should be preliminary plat, in order to enlarge Lot 618 from a portion of Phase 9. A revision to Phase 9, which adjusts the phase boundary to incorporate this change, appears as item 29 on this agenda. No other changes to the plat are proposed. Plat is in order and staff recommends approval with the same conditions established in conjunction with the original approval, as well as the additional condition that a minor revision to Lot 618 be recorded.
Thank you. Do I have any discussion on this item? Commissioner Lathers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is the applicant here?
The applicant is present, Commissioner.
Right. Could I ask a quick question? Thank you so much. And I know there's a couple of Troubadour items, and I don't mean to.
I'm Mike Campbell. I'm a civil engineer.
Oh, Mike, nice to see you. Thank you.
Sure.
I understand, I also serve currently as a county commissioner for District 5, and we've been noticing on Interstate 40, really the backup on peak times where people cannot exit to make a dedicated left, and they're making a right turn in churches and so forth. So that led to conversations with Highway Director Hood, the county mayor, and through Senator Jack Johnson's office, we got into TDOT. We provided aerial drone footage, and the Planning Department did a great visual of showing the growth and development. And we also have Arrington Vineyard there and, tourism issues. So the good news is TDOT has some funding sources, and they're doing an audit of that. But then I've learned that maybe Troubadour has a commitment towards some of those improvements and that there's some discussion going on. Do you have any knowledge of where we're at with that discussion with TDOT?
I do not, but I do know there are several off-site improvements that are proposed. At this moment, I don't know exactly where they are in the construction process, but several off-site improvements are proposed, and they kick in at certain phases of the development.
Do you know how we could find that information, just so we could have some understanding of coordinating, like what you all are required to do, what the state is? That would be great. I appreciate your card afterwards. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Looks like we have a motion, Commissioner Baldry, and a second by Mr. McCord. Let's move for a vote. Motion passes. Moving on to item 27, preliminary plat review for Troubadour Phase 7 revised containing 21 lots on 13.37 acres located off Cox Road in the 5th voting district. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A final plat for this section of the development was approved at the April 2020 meeting, and all applicable bonds have been posted and the final plat recorded in June of 2020. The applicant is now requesting approval of a revised preliminary plat in order to enlarge Lot 721 from a portion of Phase 9. A revision to Phase 9, which adjusts the phase boundary to incorporate this change, appears as item 29 on this agenda. No other changes to the plat are proposed. The plat is in order and staff recommends approval with the same conditions established in conjunction with the original approval, as well as the additional condition that a minor revision to Lot 721 be recorded.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any discussion? Commissioner Crohan.
We're approving a final plat or preliminary plat on this?
We're approving a preliminary plat. It does say final plat in the report, but it is preliminary.
The other one was the same way, and I didn't get a chance to get it in time. Do we need to make that part of the motion? Or is that okay?
I believe Aaron corrected it when he read the staff report, so I think that's probably good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion. We have a second from Commissioner Rose. Let's vote, please. Motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to item 28, preliminary plat review for Troubadour Phase 8 revised containing 9 lots on 17.02 acres located off Cox Road in the 5th voting district. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A preliminary plat for this development was approved at the October 2021 meeting. The applicant is now requesting revised preliminary plat approval in order to adjust the boundary of Lot 801 and realign George Jones Drive in order to reduce the impacts of the crossing to the required waterway natural area. This change does not affect the number of lots or the amount of open space within the phase. The layout depicted on the revised preliminary plat is substantially consistent with that depicted on the approved concept plan. Staff recommends approval of the revised preliminary plat with the following conditions, which must be addressed in conjunction with final plat submittal. Number 1, prior to final plat submittal, off-site roadway improvements required in association with individual sections of the development as stipulated in the traffic study review findings provided by the county's traffic engineering consultant, including turn lane improvements at site entrances, must be completed in accordance with the approved plans. Number 2, establishment of a performance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control. Number 3, establishment of a performance bond for water improvements in favor of Milcroft and Utility District. Number 4, establishment of a performance bond for the wastewater collection system as specified by the county's wastewater consultant. Number 5, submission of landscaping plans and establishment of a performance bond for landscaping. Number 6, prior to consideration of final plat approval, the applicant shall submit HOA documents which shall address the requirements of Section 17.12 private streets of the zoning ordinance for review and approval by the county attorney's office. The HOA documents must be submitted with the final plat, and the approved HOA documents must be recorded concurrently with the recording of the final plat. Number 7, execution of a stormwater maintenance agreement and submission of an operation and maintenance plan for stormwater improvements. And number 8, providing 2 copies of the approved final plat in DWG format on recordable media based on the Tennessee State Plan Coordinate System prior to signature and recording of the final plat.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion on item number 28? Thank you, sir. Second. We have a motion and a second. Let's move to vote, please. Motion passes. Moving on to item number 29, preliminary plat review for Troubadour Phase 9 revised containing 21 lots on 30.03 acres located off Cox Road in the 5th voting district. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A preliminary plat for this phase of the development was approved at the September 2021 meeting. That plat reflected 23 lots on 31.31 acres. The applicant is now requesting approval of a revised preliminary plat that depicts a smaller area and a reduced number of lots. The 2 lots that are to be removed from this phase will be merged with other lots located within Section 6 and 7 of the development, for which revised preliminary plats appeared as items 26 and 27 on this agenda. Both sections have recorded final plats, and the revisions to these final plats will be reviewed administratively. The revised preliminary plat is consistent in layout with and substantially conforms to the approved concept plan, and so long as items 26 and 27 were approved, staff recommends approval of this revised preliminary plat with the following conditions, which must be addressed in conjunction with final plat consideration. Number 1, prior to final plat submittal, off-site roadway improvements required in association with the individual sections of the development as stipulated in the traffic study review findings provided by the county's traffic engineering consultant, including turn lane improvements at site entrances, must be completed in accordance with the approved plans. Number 2, establishment of a performance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control. Number 3, establishment of a performance bond for water improvements in favor of Milcroft and Utility District. Number 4, establishment establishment of a performance bond for the wastewater collection system as specified by the county's wastewater consultant. Number 5, submission of landscaping plans and establishment of a performance bond for landscaping. Number 6, prior to consideration of final plat approval, the applicant shall submit HOA documents which shall address the requirements of Section 17.12, private streets of the zoning ordinance, for review and approval by the county attorney's office. The HOA documents must be submitted with the final plat, and the approved HOA documents must be recorded concurrently with the recording of the final plat. Number 7, execution of a stormwater maintenance agreement and submission of an operation and maintenance plan for stormwater improvements. And number 8, providing 2 copies of the approved final plat in DWG format on recordable media based on the Tennessee State Plan Coordinate System prior to signature and recording of the final plat.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any discussion on item number 29? Do I have a motion? Thank you, sir. Second? You mind verbalizing that, Beth?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Let's move to vote. Motion passes. Moving on to item 30, preliminary plat review for 69.7 acres. Is that the name? That's the name. Okay, sorry. Let's start this over. Preliminary plat review for 69.7 Harpeth School Road LLC, large lot easement subdivision containing 5 lots on 63.92 acres located off Harpeth School Road in the 2nd voting district. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The subject property is approximately 64 acres in size and is located off Harpeth School Road, approximately 1/2 mile southwest of Jackson Hollow Road. The applicant is requesting of approval of a large lot easement subdivision in order to create 5 lots off a new 50-foot ingress-egress utilities easement. At this time, the applicant is requesting deferral to the August 2022 Planning Commission meeting to allow the applicant more time to address staff comments. Staff concurs with this request.
Thank you. Any discussion? We have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes. Moving on to item 31, preliminary plat review for Starnes Creek Phase 1 containing 18 lots on 75.61 acres located off Meeks Road in the 5th voting district. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A concept plan for this development was reviewed as item 22 on this agenda. The applicant is now requesting preliminary plat approval for the first phase of the development, which contains 18 lots, approximately 57.5 acres of open space, and the disposal and storage area for the wastewater treatment system. The plat is consistent in layout with the concept plan that appeared as item 22. So long as item 22 on this agenda was approved, staff recommends approval of the preliminary plat. In conjunction with final plat consideration, the following items must be addressed. Number 1, prior to final plat submittal for the first section of the proposed subdivision, a zoning certificate must be obtained for the completed wastewater treatment and disposal system. Prior to issuance of the zoning certificate, the applicant shall provide the following. A letter from TDEC indicating that the non-traditional wastewater treatment and disposal system was installed and is functioning. B, as-built drawings showing the location of all system components and a sealed certification letter from the design engineer indicating that said system was constructed in accordance with the approved construction plans and specifications. C, a letter from the owner/utility provider indicating that it has accepted said system and is currently operating same. D, per the recommendation of the county's wastewater consultant, establishment of a performance bond in the amount of $120,700 for said system. And E, the posting of a performance bond in the amount of $8,200 for landscaping improvement as it relates to said system. Number 2, prior to final plat submittal, turn lane improvements on Meeks Road must be completed to the satisfaction of the Williamson County Highway Superintendent. Number 3, prior to consideration of final plat approval, the applicant shall submit HOA documents for review and approval by the county attorney's office. The HOA documents must be submitted with the final plat, and the approved HOA documents must be recorded concurrently with the recording of the final plat. Number 4, establishment of a performance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control. Number 5, establishment of a performance bond for water improvements in favor of Milcroft and Utility District. Number 6, establishment of a performance bond for the wastewater collection system. Number 7, submission of landscaping plans and establishment of a performance bond for landscaping. Number 8, execution of a stormwater maintenance agreement and submission of an operation and maintenance plan for stormwater improvements. And number 9, submission of the approved final plat in DWG format on recordable media based on the Tennessee State Plan Coordinate System prior to signature and recording of the plat.
Thank you, sir. Is there any discussion on item 31? Do I have a motion? I have a motion. Do I have a second, Commissioner?
Second that.
Thank you. Please vote. Motion passes. Item number 32, preliminary plat review of Arrington Woods Large Lot Easement Subdivision containing 5 lots on 34.72 acres located off Nolensville Road in the 5th voting district. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The subject parcel is approximately 35 acres in size and is located off Nolensville Road, approximately 1/4 of a mile north of Mullins Road. The applicant is requesting approval of a large lot easement subdivision in order to create 5 lots off a new 50-foot ingress-egress utilities easement. At this time, the applicant is requesting deferral to the August 2022 Planning Commission meeting to allow the applicant more time to address staff comments. Staff concurs with this request.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a motion? I have a motion and a second. Thank you. Please vote. Motion passes. Moving on to item 33, preliminary plat review for Wilder Subdivision, large lot easement subdivision containing 5 lots on 46.48 acres located off Nolensville Road in the 5th voting district. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The subject parcel is approximately 46 acres in size and is located off Nolensville Road, approximately 800 feet north of Mullins Road. The applicant is requesting approval of a large lot easement subdivision in order to create 5 lots off a new 50-foot ingress-egress utilities easement. At this time, the applicant is requesting deferral to the August 2022 Planning Commission meeting to allow the applicant more time to address staff comments. Staff concurs with this request.
Thank you. Any further discussion or a motion? Commissioner Rose?
Items 32 and 33 being submitted by the same group?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Motion? Second? Second. I have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to item 34 under final plats. Final plat review for Gentry Farms LLP. Lot 1 containing 1 lot on 5 acres located off Old Charlotte Pike in the 9th voting district. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A preliminary plat for this project was approved at the May 2022 meeting. The applicant is now requesting final plat approval of this large lot easement subdivision to create the 4th lot off an existing 50-foot ingress-egress utilities easement. All zoning ordinance requirements, including those regarding the protection of natural resources, have been met. The applicant is proposing an individual septic system for the lot, and the Williamson County Department of Sewage Disposal Management has approved the request. Water will be provided by the HB and TS utility district. There is an existing fire hydrant meeting the minimum flow rate of 500 gallons per minute within 500 feet of the building envelope. The applicant is requesting a variance from the 16-foot driveway width requirement in order to preserve a canopy of old-growth trees which flank the existing 12-foot driveway. The final plat is in order and staff recommends approval pending Planning Commission action on the variance request. And I would have you note attachment 34-3, which provides more information on the variance request. And when you vote, you'll need to also make a decision on the request for variance in addition to the final plat approval.
Thank you, sir. We have Commissioner Crohan, question?
I got a question on the variance, and as far as the 12-foot, they mentioned in here about that they would trim back and take care of the trimming. That wouldn't be any responsibility of the counties at all, correct?
It would not be the responsibility of the county. They would have to actually take out those trees in order to widen the road, the driveway to 16 feet. as required. And then they're concerned about having to tear those out because they've been there, apparently they've been on the property for 7 generations or something like that. Since
So-
the-
But as far as any growth or anything, we're not held responsible for it at all in the
No.
now or in the future.
It's an access easement that will be maintained by the property owners. The county will not be maintaining it.
Okay, thank
So
you.
the limbs that are being cut back are done by the property owner?
Yes.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Sorry, Commissioner Lathers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just going to say that I think that, personally, I think this variance request is a good one. And I know that we have to always look at roadways and access for public safety, health, and welfare. We also have as our vision statements for the county, we're maintaining rural character, and I just think this is a good compromise with the 12 feet and the 2 feet underbrush on both sides. So personally, I'm in support of this variance. Thank you.
Can I ask one question of the council? Is there, I take it all as a whole, 34, item 34 covers this variance request, that we don't take it separately?
You can take it as a whole, but the motion would have to include whether the variance is granted or not, since staff did not include a recommendation on that.
Okay, thank you. So do I have a motion, Commissioner Crohan? Oh, hold on. 1 second.
I was just wondering if emergency vehicles is going to be capable of traveling this 12-foot easement.
I guess that might be something that might have to be looked in a little bit further. I'm not sure for sure if they'll be able to get up there or not.
Is somebody representing the applicant here?
Yes.
Hello, Mark Cantrell with T-Square Engineering, and I've done the surveying and the plat, and the owners are here. She's Coach Gentry's granddaughter and her husband, so they know more about the property, so I'll let one of them speak to that.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Laura Gentry DeFada, Jimmy's granddaughter and Scott's daughter, and we appreciate your time here tonight. Our desire is to essentially build, I grew up on the farm. We have attempted to obtain this since 2020. We would ultimately like to raise our 2 girls out there on the farm in the way that we were brought up. It was special, one of a kind. And our property, the 5 acres that we're trying to do this on, is essentially in the backyard of my parents. So the road, yeah, you want to speak to it?
As far as emergency vehicles, the current canopy you can see in the pictures, that gravel driveway is 12-foot wide. To get a 16-foot wide roadway in there, we would interfere with the roots of the trees, which would then take those trees down. I fully believe that an emergency vehicle could get through there pending, an emergency.
Amazon trucks and all kinds of big things go through there all the time, huge farm equipment that would be as big or bigger than any kind of emergency vehicle. They've gone through there for
I don't
years.
have facts on that, but that's what.
Yeah.
I've watched it. If that helps, I don't know.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Commissioner Crohan, you want to make your motion? Approval of that? Yes, sir. Thank you. Do I have a second? Commissioner Lathers? Second. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 35, final plat review for Lookaway Farms, Section 3, containing 23 lots on 85.57 acres, located off Clovercroft Road in the 4th Voting District. Staff?
Thank you, sir. Preliminary plat covering this section of the development was approved at the August 2021 meeting. The applicant is now requesting final plat approval for Section 3 of the development, which contains 23 lots and approximately 71 acres of open space. At this point, the required letter from the water provider specifying the water bond amount has not been submitted. Therefore, staff recommends this item be deferred until the August 2022 meeting.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion or a motion? Thank you, sir. Second?
Second.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes. Moving on to other business bylaws of the Williamson County Regional Planning Commission. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a result of recent litigation involving the Planning Commission and changes to state law, legal counsel, that's me, has reviewed the Planning Commission bylaws and is recommending amendments which will provide clarification within several sections. Specifically, the changes confirm the authority of staff to review and approve minor subdivisions and revise the deadline within which the applicant may provide written materials to the Planning Commission. With due notice having been given to the members of the Planning Commission of these proposed amendments, planning staff and legal counsel recommend adoption of the amendments as presented, and for those amendments to be effective immediately upon adoption. Mr. Chairman, as I'm looking through my packet earlier today, it does not look like the amendments are in there, but they're not highlighted. So I just wanted to call them out to tell you exactly what they are. I mean, you have them. And you understand from the staff report what they are, but specifically, on page 5, under 4.1.5 Secretary, I had intended for you all to have the track changes version, and I guess that maybe I didn't send it, but if you look under Secretary, just kind of the middle of the paragraph, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth sentence down, the Secretary is authorized in accordance with the subdivision regulations and the Tennessee Code annotated to review and approve minor subdivisions as defined by the subdivision regulations on behalf of the Planning Commission. So your planning staff reviews and approves minor subdivisions all the time, 1 lot and 2 lot, that's minor sub. The General Assembly recently adopted a new law that said, the intent, I believe, was that the Planning Commission could delegate to the planning staff up to 25 lot review subdivisions. But in doing so, it was drafted in such a way where everyone that does the job that I do read it, that the staff didn't have the authority to even keep doing what we've been doing since the late 70s without going back to the legislative body. So out of an abundance of caution and reading the statute the way that everybody that does the work that I do read it, we went to the county commission Monday night and had a resolution to confirm that you all as a planning commission still have the authority to delegate to your staff to review minor subdivisions. And so I put it in the bylaws too, just so we can make it perfectly clear. And I'm even going to clarify it in the subregs to make it really bright and shiny. You'll see that in another month or two. So that's what this is for. We're not changing anything that we haven't been doing for a million years. And, you know, at some point we may come back and talk about the policy discussion of allowing staff to do a little more, because it is more efficient and effective for property owners to be able to do it at the staff level. But this is just confirming what we've been doing. The other changes are so super minor, but the next one is on page 13, and this has to do with the submission of written materials. If you all recall, back when we were looking at the hooker developments, one of the issues was at the last minute the applicant was able to throw a bunch of stuff in the door and y'all didn't have a whole lot of time to review it, because the bylaws are written in such a way that the applicant can do that, but the public could not, because your written materials have to be submitted, you know, earlier in the week, so y'all have plenty of time to review them. So waiting until I had another bylaw amendment, what I've changed now under number 4 on page 13, which is under your written materials, there used to be language in here, and that's why it's kind of hard to tell something that's not there anymore. But if you look in number 4, it says submitted by anyone other than planning, community development staff, planning commission, legal counsel, or from any source produced at the request of all these people and provided to the planning commission by same. There used to be language in there that included the applicant or their representative, and I took that out. So now the applicant has to also comply with the written materials submittal deadline, which is, I think, Monday at noon before the meeting on Thursday. So that you all aren't having an entire new packet of stuff thrown in at you from the applicant the night before or the afternoon before the meeting. And then the very last thing is on page 15, and this is just really, really, really simple, but under J, third one down from the top, instead of it saying shall state his or her name and address, it's just county of residence. That's the thing that we're doing now. It's a privacy thing where we're not making people give us their street address in public hearings. They can if they want to, but we're not requiring it, and so I'm just making the bylaws consistent with the newest practice. So those are the amendments. I'm sorry they weren't highlighted a little more clearly, and then I can answer any questions that you all may have.
Commissioner Baldry?
Back to the secretary change. So how many lots can the staff and secretary approve without coming here? You had mentioned up to 25 lots. I didn't know.
No, right now it's just 1 or 2, and that's what we've always had, and so we're not changing that. The new state law would allow planning staff, would allow you all to delegate it to your planning staff up to 25 lots with a whole bunch of other conditions. Well, we're not even remotely going there yet. So that would be a policy discussion that we would have to have here for you all to decide if that's something you want to consider. But what we're trying to do now is just get it back on track. Because frankly, since this law passed, we've had minor subdivisions sitting on the table that are ready to go, but Mike can't sign them until we went to the county commission. And then again, this is just kind of confirming it. So this is just allowing us to keep doing what we've been doing. Okay. But at some point, we probably will bring to you all the policy discussion of maybe letting staff do a little bit more rather than make people come here for approvals of certain plats, so.
Okay, thank you.
One last, subdivision regulations define that 1 or 2? Is that
Yes.
what defines the 1
Yeah,
or
minor
2? As a minor subdivision?
It does,
Okay.
and the other thing is, Mike and I are working on some revisions of that, just so we can make this process absolutely clear. We'll be bringing those to y'all, I think, next month, or if not next month, September, so.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Item 36. Do I have a motion? Thank you, sir. Well, we got Commissioner Baldwin. Let's do it the other way around. You take the motion. Commissioner Crohan, you want to hit the second? Thank you. Let's vote, please. Motion passes.
Thank you. I'll do a clean copy and get that out to you, and Sammy, we'll have to get your signature on the official one next month.
Thank you. And with that, move for adjournment. Thank you.